Hey y'all, and welcome back. I'm Benjamin Davies, and this is Maker's Journey Workshop. Smash that subscribe button. If you paid attention at all in our last video, we showed you how to make some of these little leaf hooks. Yep, some of those guys. We showed you several different ways, and the main thing is just cutting them out from a plasma cutter, cutting them out by hand, or ordering them if you have to. And it's a nice hack whenever you don't have power hammers and power forging tools, but it's also a bit stumbling for the ego because you think you want to make everything by the hand, and we talk about that a lot in this video right here. We're not going to go into it today. If you're interested, go check that one out right after this one. But we are going to talk about adding some color to these guys. And there was a real simple trick that I learned years ago that was taught to me by one of my mentors, and I'm going to share it here with you today. If he had not taught this to me, I might have never found it, because the paint that we use is not something you're going to trip across in the hobby store. Maybe you have, I know I hadn't, but I'm going to share it with you, and I'll provide links down below to where you can get it. Now, if you're anything like me and you fell in love with blacksmithing, forging, you just love the natural color of it. I do too. But you're not your customer, and a little bit of color doesn't hurt anything. That's why today we'll be adding some color to these leaves. I keep mine in a container, that way they're sealed as best as possible, and that way it prevents them from drying out a little bit. It's an oil-based paint, and they do have a tendency to dry out. All right, eye on the yellow, eye on the yellow, eye on the yellow. All right, can you find the yellow? All right, this one's kind of old, look. Yep, all kinds of colors, and that last one is my favorite. It's called German silver, and I actually went to using it years ago on my leaves. One of the cool things that you learn as you start to forge is the brass brush trick. It's pretty cool, especially when you watch a demo. It's fun. But looking at production work and the style of work that I do, it wasn't realistic to sit down and flame each one of those, brass brush it, and then go back and repolish wherever the brass brush got where I didn't want it to. And so I've started using this stuff, and I love it, and I haven't looked back once. But as you'll see, I've got some stuff in my hands. You saw that rust colored one, right? And it looked like it shrunk about down to half its size. This stuff shrunk, and I didn't know for years, because I'm stubborn and I don't read the back. But they send you these little popsicle sticks with it. I don't have any. I always get rid of them because I've got several kids and we have enough craft supplies laying around to last lifetimes. It's a serious epidemic. Anyways, but you can revive this stuff with paint thinner. This might be a little too far gone, and just do a little bit of dab of paint thinner in there. And what I'll do is I'll put a little bit in there and I'll push it around like that. And then if that starts to loosen it up, take a popsicle stick, something to kind of muddle it with, kind of same way as a mortar and pestle, and that will revive it so you can use it once again. Just something to help you stretch on a rainy day if you've not used it in a while and it starts to dry out. The different colors are different consistencies. It's weird. The German silver that I just talked about, which is more of a brass gold look to me, it's always very creamy, but some of the other colors are very dry, almost like your pastel crayons that you used in school as a kid, if you're from the 1900s like me. So quick warning, these paints are about $10 to $20 a piece. It seems like most of those little cans are about $16 a piece. That's expensive. Why not just use a rattle can, huh? Them just like $3 or $4. You go to the dollar store. Shut up, be quiet. Okay, so you can use the rattle can, and I have, and there's some applications throughout your career where you're going to need that, and that's okay when you're looking to cover, certain things. Definitely black. If I don't have enough to put in my compressor, I'll definitely get some black Rust-Oleum for some things. But what's really cool about this is a little goes a long way, and I mean, I paint hundreds of things before I finally run out. It usually dries out before I get done using it. Not my German silver, but my other colors, kind of like that rust. Another thing I've started doing on this last order is I've started dating them, and that way I know how long I've had them and can get an idea of the use, especially per color. Okay, so it lasts longer than a rattle can, but rattle cans are pretty cheap, and I can do lots of hooks. Yes, but there's a certain look that you get with this that I just love, and it's very distinct, and maybe you can replicate it with a rattle can, but I really like this stuff. So why are you making a whole video about painting? I mean, we all took art class in elementary school. Can't be that difficult, man. It's not, but there are some tips and tricks that I had to learn along the way that just makes life easier. That's what I'm going to share with you here today, and hopefully it helps you. The first thing you're going to do is tape your hooks off. I buy 2-inch blue tape. It just works best. And then another trick is, if you'll notice right here, that's right, I just kind of glue it together on the backside, just enough to touch each other and hold place. I don't, make a full seam, because that's more work at the end. When I go to start tearing these off, I can just grab those tabs and peel them off like this. Just reach back there, pull it apart. I know it sounds silly, but when you're making hundreds of these things at a time, it's a big difference. And one of the big things that we emphasize in this shop is time. I want to have as much of it back as possible to be productive in here, but also go hang out with my family and spend time being with them. All right, the first way these paints were presented to me is I was just kind of showing them, and I asked, how do you apply? I said, just put it on your fingers like finger painting. Brush it on there. Yeah, I tried that. It is a mess. It's terrible. And so I figured out another trick. And if you're a painter, this might offend you, and I apologize in advance. Yep, about one to 1 1/4 inches. That's a real good length for what we're doing here. Don't get too worried if it's not perfect. Yep, I cut the bristles down. And the big reason that I cut the bristles down is because when I leave it long like that, it flings paint everywhere, and it'll put speckles on other parts of your work where you don't want it, or in your shop where you don't want it. So I cut it down, and that allows me to kind of blot the paint on there, and it works really well for me. Also, I buy the little 1-inch paint brushes. The absolute cheapest little paint brushes, because I don't need anything bigger than that. 1/2 inch is too small. 1 inch is a good size for me. And a lot of times I can reuse this. If I keep it sealed up in that container, what I'll do is I'll pull it out and I'll dust it off on the side of a table. In case the paint's gotten hard on there, and I'll go right to using it, and it works just fine. And so I can actually get some length and some time out of these brushes. And I buy 100 pack of them at a time. Just easier. It's nice once you can afford to buy some surplus to have that stuff around the shop, so you're not stopping every 5 minutes. If you're beginning, I know years ago, I felt like such a top dog. Once I had like 2 grinding wheels, 2 cut brushes, one that was used, one still in the package because I was a baller, and things like that. If you're still there, don't worry. Yeah, keep with it, you'll get better. All right, it's fall, and these are leaf hooks. It'd be silly if we didn't give them some beautiful autumn colors, and that's what we're gonna do here. If you don't like the colors, that's okay. You're not your customer. The idea here is to make some money. There's a lot of times I sell stuff that I don't like because I know people do, and that brings me a different kind of joy whenever I'm able to make something for somebody else that they want. Even if it's not my cup of tea, you're not your customer. Get out of your own way. It's okay. If you're beginning, or if you're a hobbyist, or if you still have time to make stuff for yourself, make the things that you like. But when it comes to making some money, don't feel any shame about painting some colors that you don't want, or making hooks. I will forever humbly make hooks. I don't care how big our business gets. They ground me. It sounds silly, but this is what started it for us. It was one of the first things that we could take to a show and make some money with. And I was just like, it was an eye-opener for me. It let me know that, I could get out of the job that I was stuck in, and I could potentially go into business for myself, making money, doing something I enjoyed, which, for me. So, painting the hooks, it's okay. Another thing you'll run into quick if you haven't done any kind of craft shows yet is if you fill an entire booth and there's nothing but black iron in it, everything blends. You can get creative with backgrounds and using lighter colors, and we'll talk about that in some upcoming videos. But there's nothing wrong with a splash of color. It doesn't cheapen it. It's a great way to go. All right, here's another little trick. Take it a little step further. If you get too much paint on there, or you just want to give it some highlights, take some high grit sandpaper. I think I've got some 320 sitting around tonight. That's what we're going to use, and go over it. It's going to hit the highs. That's why it's called highlights. It's going to hit the high points, and it's going to give you some contrast, so you'll get some silver popping from the backside along with the color. It is a nice contrast. Also, if you're not big on these paints and you don't see yourself paying $16 or whatever these are a piece for those paints, and you want to try it with the rattle cans, two things that I would recommend for you. First, stick with the matte colors. Because you're going to seal this in a clear lacquer, and you can go semi or just high gloss, and that's usually what I use. And then also you can do the sandpaper trick on there as well. Be careful with your splatter and your spray, but you can still achieve a similar result doing the same steps we did tonight. So experiment, see if you like it before you buy some of these paints. I like them. I've been using them since day one. All right, so you will get some of it on your hands. And just be mindful and aware of that. And that way you're not grabbing this hook right here and applying it there, because usually you don't see it until after you've already sealed it or you're unpacking for a show. That turned out pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that. Some of these colors, they'll actually change a little bit. They'll get darker or lighter the more that you apply them. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but if you're really, I guess, working the paint, it actually does make it a little bit darker. I really like this. Something else that may seem small, because the way that I've been doing this here lately for just for the sake of the demonstration for the video, is over tables and flat surfaces. That way we've got a background. But whenever I'm doing this in real life, I'll sit right next to my table like this. I've got a stool that's just comfortable enough to sit on for about 10 minutes in the shop. You don't want one that's too comfortable. And I'll paint out in space, and that way, as it flicks little pieces of paint, I'm not flicking it onto my work surface right here. That creates problems as you set this stuff down. Like I said earlier, some of this stuff's thicker, some of it's thinner, and you can always make it a little softer to spread a little bit easier with just a little bit of paint thinner, and then mix it and muddle it around with a popsicle stick or whatever you got handy. So this one's much thicker, and I put too much on there, and so I'm just trying to get some of it off. You'll leave brush marks, which is actually okay. And I'm gonna show you a little trick here in just a second that helps you to antique the hook even more. Oh, and that little trick I taught you about earlier on in the video comes in so handy right here, because you're able to just reach back there, pull it apart, and escape. Nice. Now let's talk about a little trick that'll help you achieve some highlights and give you that antiquing look. Sandpaper. This is all I had sitting around that's kind of a high grit. It's 320 grit, something fine. You can actually go a little bit lower than this, maybe 200, 150 would probably work fine. Nothing too coarse, because you don't want to put big scratch marks in it. All right, let's start with our orange hook right here. Those turned out pretty good. And you can see the highlights a little bit, and what's really gonna make it pop here is your clear lacquer. Let's go ahead and just hit it with a little bit of clear lacquer, and that way you can see how much it makes this pop. We're using the rattle can, you happy? Now this one, get my good side. Here's the result. Yep, of course we're gonna clear lacquer the rest of the hook. But man, I love this. You can do the same thing with rattle cans. If you're gonna use some colored paint, like I said, use the matte. But man, I love this. For our dished ones, I'm gonna leave them solid. The reason I'm not gonna try to highlight these guys at all is because they're dished. And I have a feeling like I would end up getting more focus in a ring and less equal distribution of the highlights that I was looking for. And so I'm just gonna leave them like this. Whole way you can get around just doing the same at all is apply the paint a little bit lighter. Play with it, experiment. Thanks so much for being here with me today as we painted some hooks. I hope this inspired you and you get out there and you try some of your own and add a little bit of color to your forge work too. It's kind of fun. I've grown to enjoy it over the years. All right, until next time, I'm Benjamin Davies and this is Maker's Journey Workshop. You're still here? Well, you know what you should do, right? Smash that subscribe button. See y'all. Thank you for being here.